Good morning. Just ignore this contraption here. Just act like it's not there. Just block it out. The hour of convening has arrived. I'm going to slow this up so you can finish eating your Girl Scout cookie. The hour of convening has arrived and the Senate will come to order. It's my honor to recognize the distinguished. Wearing red today. I want to be safe. Rules Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. President, and thank you so much. John wants me in a picture. Thank you so much for your leadership in this great state we have the honor to serve. Today is Groundhog Day, and here General Beauregard Lee came out and said that we're going to see spring around the corner. Now, Punxsutawney Phil in Pennsylvania at Gobbler's Knob has come out and said there are going to be 6 more weeks of winter. So we have a conflict and a debate. So we'll see what happens. Also,
one more reason why we live in Georgia.
Indeed, indeed. And we have great people we serve with here to work for the people of Georgia. Another moment in time, in 1932, Al Capone was sent to prison in Atlanta, the federal prison. I don't think a lot of people knew that. And also, I don't have anything else to say. But the journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
You said plenty. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them up to the secretary's desk at this time. All right, bear with us. We've got a long list of bills to assign. Mr. Secretary, will you please read Senate bills and resolutions for the first time?
Senate Bill 406 by Senator Hickman of the 4th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Effingham County, approved March 26th.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 407 by Senator Hickman of the 4th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County, approved
Slow go.
Senate Bill 408 by Senators Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 409 by Senator Payne of the 54th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to revise and restate the law relating to the Whitfield County Board of Education.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 410 by Senators Payne of the 54th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to create a new Board of Education of Gordon County, approved March 13th.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 411 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the election of the members of the Board of Education of Haralson County.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 412 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Roads and Revenue.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 413 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing a new Board of Education for Polk County, approved
Slow go.
Senate Bill 414 by Senator Tillery of the 19th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to recreate and establish the Board of Commissioners of Long County, approved March 10th.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 415 by Senator Tillery of the 19th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of the Board of Education of Long County, approved March 23rd.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 416 by Senator Tillery of the 19th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Commissioners of Telfair County.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 417 by Senator Harper of the 7th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Education of Berrien County, approved.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 418 by Senator Harper of the 7th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Roads and Revenues of Berrien County, approved
Slow
September.
go.
Senate Bill 419 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act governing the school system of the city of Savannah and Chatham County, approved.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 420 by Senators Huffstetler of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 3 of the OCGA relating to alcoholic beverages so as to authorize manufacturers of malt beverages.
Regulated industries.
Senate Bill 421 by Senators Huff, Stetler of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 46 of the OCGA relating to public utilities and public transportation so as to enact.
Regulated industries.
Senate Bill 422 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend amend and supersede the laws pertaining to the governing authority of Lowndes County.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 423 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the number of members and for the election of members of the Board of Education of Lowndes County.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 424 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Brooks County, approved August 11th,
Slogo.
18. Senate Bill 425 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating a new Board of Education of Linear County, approved.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 426 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners for Linear County, approved March 7th.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 427 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of the members of the Board of Education of Clinch County.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 428 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners for Clinch County, approved March.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 429 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for reapportionment of the Board of Education of Brooks County.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 430 by Senator Summers of the 13th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating and establishing a Board of Commissioners for Worth County. Approved.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 431 by Senator Summers of the 13th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the election of the chairperson and 4 members of the Worth County Board of Education.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 432 by Senators Burns of the 23rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act for the election and creation.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 433 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education for Screven County. Approved.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 434 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act for a Board of Commissioners of Warren County. Approved.
Slogo.
Senate Bill 435 by Senators Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education, so as to provide that it shall be unlawful for Georgia public schools and participating.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 436 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the restructuring of the city of Macon, the city of Payne City, and Bibb County. Approved.
Slogo.
Senate Resolution 411 by Senators Harper of the 7th and others, a bill recognizing Sheriff Ernest Dobie Connor for
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 412 by Senators Dugan of the 30th and others, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Dr. Samuel D. Thomas. And
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 428 by Senators Parent of the 42nd and others, a resolution creating the Senate Food Delivery App Study Committee and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Well done. Mr. Secretary, first reading of bills and resolutions from the House, please. For what purpose does the senator from the 56 rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-1.2 be suspended to allow for the first reading and referral of a Senate bill.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill Number 437, a bill by Senator Albers of the 56 and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County, approved December 3rd, 1880, as amended, particularly by an act approved March 29th, 1973, so as to provide that future elections for the office of County Commissioner shall be nonpartisan elections, to provide for continuation and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 56th has asked for unanimous consent for the Senate to suspend the rule for first reading and referral of a Senate bill. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's assigned to Slogo. Mr. Secretary, first reading of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 385 by Representatives Blackman of the 146th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 47 of the Official Code of
Retirement.
Georgia. House Bill 624 by Representatives Taylor of the 173rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the OCGA relating to the number of judges of Superior Courts.
Judiciary.
House Bill 841 by Representatives Dollar of the 45th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of East Cobb to provide a charter to provide for...
Slogo General.
House Bill 980 by Representatives Green of the 151st. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Early County. Approved.
Slogo.
House Bill 981 by Representatives Anderson of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to authorize the city of Cornelia, Georgia to exercise all the redevelopment and other powers.
Slogo.
House Bill 982 by Representative Green of the 151st. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act entitled an act to provide education districts for the Calhoun County Board of Education. Approved.
Slogo.
House Bill 983 by Representative Campbell of the 171st. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for a Board of Commissioners of Mitchell County. Approved February 20th, 18.
Slogo.
House Bill 985 by Representative Williams of the 168th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners for Liberty County. Approved March 12, 19.
Slogo.
House Bill 986 by Representative Collins of the 68th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act relating to the Board of Education School Superintendent of Carroll County School.
Slogo.
House Bill 987 by Representative Buckner of the 137th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Meriwether County Board of Education. Approved March 28th.
Slogo.
House Bill 988 by Representative Gullett of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to provide a homestead exemption from Paulding County ad valorem taxes for county purposes.
Slogo.
House Bill 989 by Representative Smith of the 18th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for the election of the members of the Board of Education of Haralson County.
Slogo.
House Bill 990 by Representative Williams of the 145th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Baldwin County.
Slogo.
House Bill 991 by Representatives Bruce of the 61st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the number of members and for the election of members of the Board of Education of Fulton County. Approved February.
Slogo.
House Bill 1006 by Representative Dickey of the 140th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act relating to the Board of Education of Crawford County. Approved March 19th, 1993. House Bill 1007 by Representative Dickey of the 140th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Crawford County. Approved March 2nd, 1874, as amended particularly.
Slogo.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time? Oh. Actually, let's, before second readers, let's, Mr. Secretary, will you read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 363 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 364 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 385 do pass. Senate Bill 384 do pass. Senate Bill 391 do pass. Senate Bill 392 do pass. House Bill 889 do pass. House Bill 921 do pass. House Bill 922 do pass. House Bill 935 do pass. House Bill 936 do pass. House Bill 950 do pass. House Bill 948 do pass. House Bill 949 do pass. House Bill 953 do pass. House Bill 951 do pass. House Bill 952 do pass. House Bill 954 do pass. House Bill 909 do pass. House Bill 959 do pass. Senate Bill 387 do pass. Senate Bill 386 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 326 do pass and Senate Bill 346 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 96 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 352 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kauser of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 259 do pass. Senate Bill 277 do pass. Senate Bill 358 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 245 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under the consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 257 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 319 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 342 do pass by substitute, and Senate Bill 341 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 338 do pass by substitute, and Senate Bill 340 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you now read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 384 by Senator Anderson of the 24th and others. Board of Commissioners of Columbia County, description of the Commissioner Districts change. Senate Bill 385 by Senator Anderson of the 24th and others. Board of Education of Columbia County, description of the Education Districts change. Senate Bill 386 by Senator Robertson of the 29th. Board of Commissioners of Meriwether County, description of the Commissioner Districts change. Senate Bill 387 by Senator Robertson of the 29th. Meriwether County Board of Education, description of the districts change. Senate Bill 391 by Senator Tillery of the 19th. Board of Commissioners of Jeff Davis County, description of the Commissioner Districts change. Senate Bill 392 by Senator Tillery of the 19th. Board of Education of Jeff Davis County, description of the Education Districts change. House Bill 889 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others. Hall County Board of Education, change description of districts. House Bill 909 by Representative Nix of the 69th and others. Troup County Board of Commissioners, change description of districts. House Bill 921 by Representative Alexander of the 66th and others. Douglas County Board of Commissioners, change description of districts. House Bill 922 by Representative Alexander of the 66th and others. Douglas County Board of Education, provide new district boundaries. House Bill 935 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and others. Catoosa County Office of Commissioner, change description of districts. House Bill 936 by Representative Hill of the 3rd and others. Catoosa County Board of Education, change description of districts. House Bill 948 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th and others. Wilkes County Board of Education, change description of districts. House Bill 949 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th. Oglethorpe County Board of Commissioners, revive districts of members. House Bill 950 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th. Oglethorpe County Board of Education, provide new district boundaries. House Bill 951 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd. Elbert County Board of Commissioners, change description of districts. House Bill 952 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd. Elbert County Board of Education, change description of districts. House Bill 953 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd. Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, change description of districts. House Bill 954 by Representative Leffert of the 33rd, Lincoln County Board of Education, change description of districts. House Bill 959 by Representative Smith of the 133rd and others, Harris County Board of Commissioners, change description of districts. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize former Senator Cecil Staten, who's in the chambers with us right now. Thanks for being with us. All right, now it's time for the Senator from the 33rd's favorite part of the day. It's now time for morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes on time the Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 35th, 36th, and the 19th.
Without objection, the senators from the 35th, 36th, and 19th are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th. That's you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th.
The senator from Forsyth County is excused without objection. Chair recognizes the majority whip.
Not on. There you go. Good morning. I'd
Good
like
morning.
to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 49th for business close to the beach.
Without objection, the senator from the 49th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd.
Without objection, the senator from the 22nd is excused. I see no additional motions to excuse. The secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for our morning devotional. It's now time for our morning devotional. I'd ask that all senators take your seats and cease all audible conversations. Easy for me to say. Doorkeepers, please secure the chamber at this time. It's my honor to recognize the senator from the 33rd to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Georgia flag.
I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, to the principles which it stands for, justice, and moderation.
Thank you, Mr. President. My fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. I'm here today to introduce to you the Reverend Don Izell from Executive Pastor at Turner Chapel AME in Marietta, Georgia, y'all. Originally, he's from Fort Valley, Georgia, and is affectionately known as Reverend Don. He was elevated to the position of Executive Pastor at Turner Chapel on October 1st of 2018 by Pastor Tarway Bright Sr. Over the past 3 years, he has continued to find ways to maximize efficiency and effectiveness of Turner Chapel's ministry operations. Reverend Don is a preacher, teacher, administrator, motivator, and an innovator of ministry concepts that strengthen the spiritual formation of adults and youth. Reverend Don spent 11 years as the leader of Turner Chapel's youth ministry, formerly known as The Village, where he strove to ensure that youth ministry reached children, youth in a manner that spoke to the person as a whole. He was actively involved in all facets of the village, including mentoring, worship arts, domestic and international missions, community involvement, and promoting academic readiness. Reverend Don is also the past president of the African American Advisory Council for the Marietta City Schools. Reverend Don holds a bachelor degree in business management from Shorter University and a Master of Divinity from Candler School of Theology at Emory University. He is a proud member of the Alpharetta Smyrna Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Incorporated. Reverend Don's most prized accomplishments include his loving family, his wife Crystal of 28 years, his children Alexis and Antonio Jr., known as Ashley, and grandpa of granddaughter Aria and new grandson Ralpha. You know, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? It's interesting because Reverend Don and I, we first joined Turner Chapel when it was a church about the size of this sanctuary. And now it has grown into a huge cathedral that's a landmark and serving various needs in the city of Marietta, Georgia. I've also watched Reverend Don and I grow over the years spiritually together. When you ask him who is his favorite musician in the Bible, he will tell you right away it's Samson because he brought the house down. I now introduce to you Reverend Don.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Rett, for that introduction, and thank each of you for this opportunity to speak to you on this morning. Now, I would like to share quickly, I had the pleasure of doing my Master of Divinity at Candler School of Theology, where I studied under the Reverend Dr. Teresa Fry Brown for preaching, and one of the things that she would stress to us was timeliness. So, I'm not going to be before you long. How many times you heard that? In the Bible, we have this scripture from Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. It says, if there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation from love, any sharing in the Spirit, any compassion and sympathy, make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, be in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. This particular scripture was written to the Philippian church, as Paul is attempting to convey to the people that the ultimate example of who they are or what they should exemplify could be found in the person of Christ. He is encouraging them to share in compassion, in sympathy, in joy, and in unity of being on one accord. I'm certain that just like any family, any church, any community, any governing body, there was conflict among them. However, it is in this scripture that Paul gives what I believe is the best conflict management tool known to man. It is found in verse 3 of this scripture where he says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. My brothers and sisters of the Senate, those who are present, we are blessed. Those who are here are blessed and favored to walk in these hallowed halls, to sit in these prestigious seats, ones who have been elected to represent all people. I am certain that there may be many public and private differences among you, different backgrounds, different ideologies, different constituent bases, different methods of demonstrating happiness, anger, or frustrations. I believe these differences embody the uniqueness in who we are. Nonetheless, they should also be an example of the greatness of who we can be. When conflict arises among you, and I'm pretty sure it will, when conflict arises, my plea to you is simply this: set aside your own selfish ambitions. Exercise humility by seeking the value in others. And look to the interests of others by representing all constituents and not simply the ones that voted for you. This is the example that has been set before us, an example I hope that each of you exhibit on a daily basis. As Dr. Rhett, as I know him, Senator Rhett said, I am a 1987 graduate of Peach County High School, which means I grew up in Fort Valley, Georgia, and I grew up in an era when Michael Jordan was at the height of his career. There was this Gatorade commercial in 1991 that became a ringing endorsement to his greatness. The tune is so simple and so rhythmic that just by me simply reading the words, the melody will reverberate in your minds for the rest of the day. It says, sometimes I dream that he is me. You've got to see that's how I dream to be. I dream, I move. I dream, I groove like Mike. If I could be like Mike. My brothers and sisters, it is widely quoted that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But I always say it all depends on who you are imitating. This morning, I simply ask you to be an example to all of those who watch you. Be an example to all of those that hear your voice. Be an example to those who sit across the table from you for dinner. Be an example for those who sit on whatever side of the aisle you sit on. And you be that example by imitating the character of Christ. Like Christ. If I could be like Christ. Could we all stand? Gracious God, we have come this day to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunities that you have given us. Thank you for the responsibility that you have placed in our hands. Thank you for those who have selected us to be the ones to represent them. So God, I ask that you be with each and every member of this Senate. Be with them in everything that they do. Guide their thoughts, guide their words, guide their actions. I wish nothing but good health, wealth, prosperity, long life upon each and every one of them. Bless them is my prayer. And it's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, great job. Just a quick announcement here, if I could have everyone's attention. We're going to be setting up for the panoramic photo right now, so stay close to your seats. As soon as we're done setting up the panoramic photo and greeting the chaplain of the day, then we'll go ahead and proceed with the panoramic photos. If you could, in the meantime, I feel like I do this at home too. In the meantime, could you please clean off your desks and bring all your Girl Scout cookies up here to me? And we'll be ready to take the photo in just a few minutes.
Some of the staff might want to come over to the other side and equal out. You can leave your badges on for the picture. On. On. Yeah. Come on down. Whoa. Whoa, go back. Right there. Whoa, stop. Come up just a little bit. Stop right there.
Senate will come back to order. Are there any unanimous consents? The chair sees none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to recognize a special group that means a lot to me in my hometown and my home county. We've got with us today in the balcony, or in the gallery, we've got the Noonan Youth Council. If y'all would please stand, and members of this body, y'all just give them a hand and thank them for being here. Also want to recognize with the Youth Council, Jamie Keith. Jamie's been doing this. Jamie, you can stand. Jamie's been doing this for years, bringing the Youth Council down here to get them exposed to our state government, what we do down here, and see how all the sausage is made. And we talked about that with them this morning. We're going to talk about it with them again at lunch. And also with them is Coach Kirk Stallings. Coach Kirk Stallings was the quarterback's coach when I was in high school, and his wife was our cheerleading coach, and just they're a big part of our community. Appreciate all he does. And then also sitting up with them is a Noonan High School graduate like myself. Many of y'all know him, Michael Nix. Michael's the 911 director for GEMA, and does a lot of great work for this state, a lot of emergency work during the tornado in Noonan. Michael's just the coordination that he and GEMA did down there just got us up and moving as fast as we could and got us back to the new normal, and can't thank him enough for all his work. And again, Noonan, go Cougars, and appreciate y'all being here.
Chair recognizes the minority leader for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Is it on? Can you all hear me? Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise this morning on a point of personal privilege on Black History Month. And my point of history is Ed Temple. Ed Temple was a women's track and field pioneer and coach. Edward Stanley Temple had been a standout athlete in his own right, shining in track, football, and basketball as a high school student in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. In 1946, Temple moved to Nashville following Tom Harris, a coach from his hometown of Harrisburg. In 1946, Temple attended Tennessee Agricultural and Industrial College, now Tennessee State University, where he earned a bachelor's and master's degree in health and physical education. In 1950, Temple married Charlie B. Law. Their marriage lasted for 57 years until her passing in 2008. The couple had 2 children, Lloyd Bernard and Dr. Edwina R. Temple. Temple's biggest impact in athletics, however, would come as a coach, where he guided the Tennessee State University's women's track team to national prominence and Olympic success. In 1951, he took a position at the college as an associate professor of sociology and the assistant women's track coach. He became head coach that year. Temple named his team the Tiger Bells, and over the course of his 44-year career, he led 40 members of the Tiger Bells team to 23 Olympic medals. 13 of which were gold. Temple's Tiger Bells team also won an astonishing 34 national championships under his leadership. Temple coached Olympic champions Wilma Rudolph, May Fags, Wyoming Tyrus, Eddie McGuire, and Madeline Manning Mims, all of whom became Hall of Famers. In addition to his stints in 1960 and 64, Temple served as assistant U.S. Olympic track coach in 1980. He was also head U.S. women's track coach for the 1958 and 1959 dual meets with USSR and head women's track coach at the 1959 and 1975 Pan American Games. Temple credits the legacy of positive character development that he instilled in his athletes as one of the highest honors of his career. Nearly all of the Tiger Bell women he coached completed a college education, with 80% of those earning master's degrees, and almost half of those women went on to earn doctorates. Since retiring from his professional career in 1994, Temple remained active in his community affairs in Nashville. Edward Stanley Temple died 2 days after his 89th birthday. Thank you for listening to my Black History Moment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise to remind you that tomorrow is Thursday. You should have a reminder on your desk that looks like this. Wear your red. Tomorrow. Mr. President, I've been trying to make sure that our folk from back home that are not in the metro area had their reds packed for this week, and it sounded like many people got confused. So now that is one day before, you can finally wear red. The only other thing I would ask of you, because they did put my card on all of these that are on your desk, if I can have my card back, I don't mind being called an Indian giver, which some of my colleagues have said. But wear red tomorrow. Heart disease is the #1 killer, period, of all the cancers. We want to make sure that we take care of ourselves, stay heart healthy by eating healthy. So if you don't want your Girl Scout cookies, I will be the healthy eater for you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 5th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. My dear friends and colleagues, I'd just like to take a moment. Today is the Gwinnett Day at the Capitol. Because of the pandemic, we don't have a whole lot of folks here, but we have few folks from Gwinnett visiting here at the Capitol. They are somewhere here, leading by our Chamber President, Nick Messino, and I'd like to welcome them at the Capitol. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Some good folks in that crowd from Gwinnett County down here today, including Nick. Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring a serious issue before this chamber. In the Augusta-Richmond Judicial Circuit, several alleged members of the LOE Loyalty Over Everything street gang await trial. 17 members and affiliates of this gang were charged overall in the indictment. But 3 of these alleged gang members could soon be released back into the community and the charges dismissed against them altogether. The reason? Well, for the last year, the Attorney General has failed to fulfill one of the basic functions of the office. What am I talking about? Well, one of the most basic responsibilities of our Attorney General's office is to appoint something known as conflict counsel. When a district attorney in Georgia has a legal conflict and cannot prosecute a case for whatever reason, the Attorney General is supposed to arrange for a new prosecutor to assume responsibility for the case, right? When a district attorney has recused him or herself and informed the AG's office, the AG has 2 options. First, find another district attorney to step in and prosecute the case, or second, the AG can choose to take the case on himself. After a new DA was elected in the Augusta-Richmond Judicial Circuit in 2020, it is my understanding that that district attorney informed the Attorney General that there were multiple cases that he had a conflict on and needed the AG to appoint conflict counsel for. And you'll remember this would be in January or February of 2021. We're a year into this, right? But this isn't an issue unique to Augusta, but it is illustrative. In the Augusta-Richmond Judicial Circuit alone, dozens of Georgians are sitting in overcrowded jails without access to a speedy trial. Some may be guilty, others aren't. And you may be asking yourself, well, why does this matter? Well, for a number of reasons, but maybe the most important is that if someone is accused of a crime and the government does not proceed with prosecuting the case, a court will have to dismiss the case for want of prosecution, and the accused walks. This worst case outcome is playing out right now in Augusta, where our former Senate colleague and esteemed chair of the Judiciary Committee, Judge Jesse Stone, issued a ruling just last week that if the Attorney General doesn't appoint new counsel or step in to prosecute the case within the next 60 days, then the court will have no choice but to release the 3 men who are subject to the 54-count indictment. To be clear, the AG's failure to appoint or prosecute could result in the dismissal of criminal charges and release of alleged gang members for activity ranging from street gang terrorism, convicted felons using and possessing firearms, violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. We know that lack of resources isn't the problem. Georgia famously has a budget surplus. And if we need to allocate more money to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, then let's do it. I think it's too important not to. But in the meantime, the Attorney General has 60 days to act. 60 days to act. And so I'm publicly calling on the AG to appoint conflict counsel or take on the case himself. Otherwise, defendants accused of horrific crimes will go free. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning. Yesterday I told you all that it was very sad that due to COVID we would not have Girl Scout cookies. Luckily, I was wrong, and there was just a miscommunication, and so today everyone should have Girl Scout cookies on their desks, and I just wanted to say thank you to the Girl Scouts for keeping us happy and in good spirits with, and also for all the hard work they do selling these things. I've had so many little girls come to my door and send communications, and it's just really neat to see these 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds go out and sort of learn business skills by selling Girl Scout cookies. So since I was wrong yesterday, I wanted to correct the record and say thank you to our Girl Scouts. Thanks, Mr. President. I yield the well.
I don't have any cookies. Anyone has a box of Samoas that they're not going to eat, they doesn't gain favor. It just, helps the process a little bit. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? The chair sees none. Is there objection or adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? We're going to now move on to the rules calendar. We're going to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 369?
Senate Bill number 369, a bill by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act relating to education districts for the election of members of the Board of Education of Gwinnett County, approved April 7th, 1972, as amended so as to provide that future elections for members of the Board of Education shall be nonpartisan and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Amendment number 1 by Senator Merritt of the 9th and others, offering the following amendment to amend Senate Bill 369 by inserting after nonpartisan on line 4 the following: to provide for a referendum, effective dates, and automatic repeal. By inserting after line 18 the following: Section 2, the election superintendent of Gwinnett County shall call and conduct an election as provided in this section for the purpose of submitting this act to the electors of Gwinnett County School District for approval of or rejection. The election superintendent and for other purposes. Amendment number 2, Senator Merritt of the 9th and others offer the following amendment. Amend Senate Bill 369 by replacing lines 1 through 4 with the following: to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to provide that all local boards of education shall be elected in nonpartisan elections, to provide procedures for such nonpartisan general elections and for other purposes. By replacing lines 7 through 18 with the following: Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally is amended by revising Code Section 21-139 relating to nonpartisan elections authorized and conduct as follows. 21-139. A, notwithstanding any other provisions of this chapter to the contrary, the General Assembly may provide by local act for the election in nonpartisan elections of candidates to fill county judicial offices and offices consolidated governments which are filled by the vote of the electors of said county or political subdivision. Except as otherwise provided in this code section, the procedures to be employed in such nonpartisan elections shall conform as nearly as practicable to the procedures governing nonpartisan elections as provided in this chapter. Except as otherwise provided in this code section, the election procedures established by any existing local law which provides for the nonpartisan election of candidates to fill county offices shall conform to the general procedures governing nonpartisan elections as provided in this chapter. And such nonpartisan elections shall be conducted in accordance with applicable provisions of this chapter, notwithstanding the provisions of any existing local law. For those offices for which General Assembly, pursuant to this code section provided by local act for election in nonpartisan primaries and elections, such offices shall no longer require nonpartisan primaries. Such officers shall be elected in nonpartisan elections held and conducted in conjunction with the general primary in even-numbered years, in accordance with this chapter without a prior nonpartisan primary. This code section shall apply to all nonpartisan elections for members of consolidated governments. All nonpartisan elections for members of consolidated governments shall be governed by the provisions of this code section and shall be considered county elections and not municipal elections for the purposes of this code section. Nonpartisan elections for municipal offices shall be conducted on the dates provided in the municipal charter and for other purposes.
Minority report has been filed. Just say that.
A minority report has been filed. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Sorry for that delay. We'll come back to order. The chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to present Senate Bill 369 and to speak to the amendments since they've been read.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I bring before you today Senate Bill 369, which would change the school board elections in Gwinnett County from partisan elections to nonpartisan elections. As a father of 3 children in the public school system, I understand firsthand the role of education plays in sculpting the next generation of leaders. As a legislator, I take great responsibility in representing concerns of my constituents at the state level of government. While education should be predominantly controlled at the local level, the state has an important responsibility ensuring that Georgian students receive the very best education possible. Over the past few months, I've had increasingly high numbers of constituents contacting me directly with concerns over the operations of our school board in Gwinnett County. The education of our children should be a nonpartisan issue. Let's get politics out of our schools and once again focus on educating our children. After nearly 2 years of being in and out of school because of the pandemic, our students need officials focused on closing the education gap. The focus should be ensuring that students catch up from post-COVID shutdowns of schools where students were forced to be taught digitally. I care about nonpartisan school board because students should be the focus and not partisan politics. The bottom line is partisanship should have no place on our school board and in our schools. The students and their education should be the only priority. We need to remove party from the equation and ensure that everyone feels respected and heard. Through nonpartisan election of school board members, we'll take a strong step in ensuring this happens. And it's also my understanding there have been 4 amendments dropped, and I am opposed to these amendments. Mr. President, be happy to answer any questions. If there are none, I'll yield the will.
You have a question. The chair recognizes the senator from the 5th with a question.
Senator, you have a question?
Yes.
You said you have if I'm correct, said you have 3 children in a Gwinnett public school. You have currently going?
I'm sorry?
Is any of your children in public school in Gwinnett?
Yes, they are in public schools.
In Gwinnett County?
City of Beaufort.
Okay. Not in county school?
No, but I would say that 95% of the constituents that I represent that have children attend Gwinnett County schools.
But yours is not, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th with a question.
Senator, do you yield?
Yes, I do.
Have Senate Bill 369, did you go through or discuss this with the Gwinnett delegation at all?
Yes, I have. Since November, we've had quite a few discussions. Also have had several discussions with the former chairman of our school board, who was actually in favor of going nonpartisan. The only reservation he had is he wanted the election to be in November versus May, which we couldn't do that based on state law.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes.
The former chairman that you speak of, Everton Blair, is no longer the chairman, and he is running for a state seat, a higher state seat. So I would question, would it look political for him at this point to make that type of decision? Do you continue to yield?
Sure.
Who else on the 5-member board is asking for this besides Mr. Blair?
Yeah, I would say that about 6 or 7 years ago, the Gwinnett County School Board officially asked to be changed nonpartisan not too long ago.
Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Again, the question is, of the 5-member board, how many of them are in agreement with this bill?
I would say at least 2 are.
On record? You've only mentioned you've only mentioned Mr. Blair.
Yeah, I don't know if they're on record or
Okay.
not.
Do you continue to yield?
Sure.
You do. Is it true that we do have a local delegation process for introducing local bills?
That is true.
And you feel you followed that process?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay. Through your hearings, correct?
That's correct.
At any time after your hearing, just as we did with our Board of Election maps, we invited you to that conversation. You voted on that Board of Election map. At any time, did you call a meeting between myself or our chairman to discuss this bill and vote on it as a delegation?
Yeah, and one thing I would like to remind this body, yes, we've had several discussions about this. I've known where the delegation stands on this. But one thing that I do want this body to understand is less than a decade ago, our school system was the #1 school system in the state for many, many years. Today, we sit at 66. 18 months ago, we were at 32nd. I mean, we're falling off a cliff. This is a major issue in Gwinnett County that needs to be handled now. And we need partisan politics, which is seeped into our school board and our school system, taken out so we can protect the children, so officials can focus on educating our kids in Gwinnett.
Senator,
that's the bottom line.
Senator, do you yield?
Yeah, one more
So
question.
are you suggesting that we get rid of our local delegation process just to get bills through for partisan reasons? Should everyone here in this chamber just abandon their local delegation?
I've adhered to the Senate rules in the process of carrying this bill forward.
But you never came to the delegation with this bill.
I adhere to the Senate rules to bring this bill forward.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that when we had public meetings in Gwinnett County to allow the public to testify, that at that time, on the record, the official chairman of the Gwinnett County School Board said in public that they supported your bill?
That is true.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st with a question.
Senator, do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it true that you said that you believe that partisan politics should be taken out of our local school boards?
That's correct.
Is it also true that you said you do not support either of the amendments that are being offered today?
That is true.
So can you help me understand why you believe that only Gwinnett County should have nonpartisan school boards, but the rest of Georgia can be free to do as they please?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Senator. So I was appointed to a special study committee on nonpartisan schools statewide. We had a condensed time frame. We had about a month between special session and when we convened in January. We had two committee meetings. I also spoke to elected officials throughout the state and education professionals during that time. And simply put, there are some districts that are in favor of it and some that aren't. And that goes for both sides of the aisle. So I think that while I would support going nonpartisan statewide, I think that process needs some more vetting, and we've got some real serious issues, which I just alluded to in Gwinnett County, that need to be handled now.
One further question, if you would yield.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you understand us turning the Gwinnett County School Board into a nonpartisan board? How do you foresee that changing the way that Gwinnett schools are run, such that we would no longer be ranked number 32 in the state?
We're ranked 66 out of 180.
Or 66.
It would take partisan politics off of our school board. And like I said, once again, it would turn the focus on the students and their education and trying to make up that education gap which we're faced with because of the pandemic.
One further question. So are you suggesting that our current school board is not focused on taking care of Gwinnett County school children and making sure that our children have the education gap closed? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that there's some real issues with our school board and they need to be addressed, and taking partisanship out of the equation will take us one step towards that.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to present both amendments number 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to point out that the senator from the 45th did mention that he held statewide hearings, but I would like to know, did he have those hearings in other partisan counties that would be affected? And if any senator here in a partisan district has that information, please share that with me. I feel like if we are talking about a statewide hearing, we should be hearing from other counties other than Gwinnett County. Amendment, we'll start with number 2. So amendment number 2, it's relating to elections and primaries in general, and it provides that all local school boards of education shall be elected in nonpartisan elections. Folks, if we're going to go after one county, let's make this for all counties. That is the purpose of this amendment. So if you're willing to vote no, if you're willing to vote yes on this particular bill, you should be fully okay with voting yes on this as well. Let's make the issue statewide. Why are we still having this argument? And this will end some of the back and forth and the opinionated positions on whether we go nonpartisan or partisan. Let's hold this vote to the entire state of Georgia, and let's let the Georgia voters decide. The second amendment would call for a ballot referendum to be placed on Gwinnett County. Again, this will leave the choice up to Gwinnett County voters. We will pose that question on the ballot on a Gwinnett referendum. Yes or no. Yes, shall the act be approved, which provides that future elections for board members, or no, of the Gwinnett County Board of Elections shall be nonpartisan. Well, basically, are we going to make this election, do we want nonpartisan boards, or don't we, or do we want nonpartisan boards? And we want to pose that question to Gwinnett voters, and not one senator. We have 7 senators in our delegation. One senator is making this decision. One. He represents 10% of the Gwinnett population. We are a population of 1 million. 10%. And unless he can prove to us or show us some type of survey, some type of document that he has of those who are in favor, I would love to see that, because again, he never went through our delegation with that information. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'm going to refer everyone to the minority report that was filed. So, the Senate Gwinnett delegation has 7 members in total. I stand here on behalf of the other 6 members of this delegation in opposition to SB 369. So let me be clear about one thing personally first. I respect and enjoy working with the senator from the 45th. As a voter and as a parent with kids in the public school system, I actually don't have an issue with the idea of a nonpartisan school board. I think it's a reasonable idea that deserves discussion and input from the people that we represent. However, local legislation is not just about what I personally want. It's not about what just the author of the bill wants. It's not about what the senator from the 5th or the 9th or the 41st or the 40th wants personally. It's about representing what the majority of voters in our county have asked us to do, and bringing forward legislation that has a majority of our county legislation's support. So the reason I stand against this bill is because SB 369 did not pass through the delegation, nor has it been widely supported by the residents of Gwinnett. So first, let's talk about the process. SB 369 was never brought to the Gwinnett delegation for a vote before being assigned to committee as a general bill. And I assure you that if the author of the bill had brought the bill to the full delegation, to all 7 of us, we would have been happy to discuss it with him. We may have even been happy to vote in favor of it advancing. Again, I personally am not against the idea of nonpartisan school boards, and I represent another county, Fulton County, which has a nonpartisan board of education. But the county delegation was bypassed in advancing this bill, which means that by design, the bill did not have the majority support of the delegation representing the entirety of the county affected. So it's really difficult to argue for advancing local legislation that is opposed by the entirety of the local delegation apart from the author of the bill. Second thing, public support. In committee meeting, I asked whether a majority of voters in Gwinnett want a nonpartisan Board of Education. Now, I'm not talking about the residents who just reached out to the author of the bill or the residents who just live in one district. I'm talking about residents in the whole of Gwinnett, which has nearly 1 million residents, all of whom would be affected by this legislation. They deserve to be heard, and we should make sure we're representing what they want. Luckily, we actually have a wealth of information that answers this question. So first, there was actually a question on the Republican 2020 primary ballot that asked exactly this question, and I quote, this was the question on the ballot. Should candidates for Board of Education be required to declare their political party? It's on the 2020 Republican primary ballot. An overwhelming majority, more than 71%, of Republican voters in Gwinnett in 2020 answered yes, meaning they were in favor of keeping school boards partisan. Right. I repeat, 71% of Republican voters in Gwinnett voted against the idea of the proposed bill we are currently debating. Okay? Even more recently, the Gwinnett Board of Education sent out a survey for parents, which was ahead of the local redistricting process. From this survey, overwhelmingly, the responses to the Board of Education from actual families in the school system across the county was that they wanted minimal change and that there was no majority interest in radically changing the Board of Education election process. So, if there is not a majority of the Gwinnett delegation that wants this bill, and there is not a majority of Gwinnett families who want this bill, then why would we pass it? Finally, let's talk about effect. If the Board of Education elections are changed to nonpartisan, the elections would have to be held during the May 24th primary elections this year instead of during the general elections in November. This means that if we pass this bill today, the Board of Elections would have the nearly impossible task of organizing and informing voters about this new election schedule with less than 3 months to go. And we haven't even passed the final Board of Education maps yet for the county. Furthermore, we all know, as people who have run campaigns, that historically primary elections have a much lower turnout than general elections. We all know this, right? Which means that fewer Gwinnett school families would be heard in these important decisions. Again, I want to restate, I personally am not opposed to the idea of nonpartisan boards of education. I would be happy to advance this proposal if it is determined that it is indeed what the majority of Gwinnett residents want. But before we pass this legislation, we should in fact determine that this is what our voters want us to do right now. So what I would propose, and what the senator from the 9th has proposed with her amendment, is to propose a question as a referendum question on the 2022 general election ballot, put it to voters, and if this is a change that they do indeed want us to make, then we can move forward with it. Again, I really respect the senator from the 45th, and if the majority of my constituents support his legislation, I'd be happy to support it when it comes for a vote before the full Gwinnett delegation of 7 senators. We just haven't done that work yet, and decisions of this size shouldn't skip any steps in the process. So let's make sure we're accurately representing the interests of this local bill, and for now, please, I would ask you to vote no on this piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will, unless I have any questions.
There are questions.
All right.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th with a question.
Does Senator yield?
Yes, I do.
You know I have a tremendous amount of respect for you.
Likewise.
And I have a lot of respect for Senator Jones, and I have a lot of respect for Senator Butler. But I am highly offended by a statement on this forum. And as it says, partisan elections were fine when white Republicans, I know a lot of non-white Republicans, were winning seats. But now that black Democrats, and I know a lot of non-black Democrats, are winning elections, I think this is a highly racist statement, and I want to go on record, I'm offended by it. And I'm very, very surprised by y'all making that statement. I yield. Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, I do.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
So it was my, I think I heard correctly during the exchange between the senator from the 45th and the senator from the 9th that in the study committee he was on to look at the statewide notion of nonpartisan school boards, there was not unanimous support for such a notion around the state, so therefore he withdrew that idea. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What is the situation on the ground in Gwinnett County related to that question? Is there unanimous support for that question, or is it more similar to the situation that the senator from the 45th found around the state?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. I doubt there's unanimous support for really anything in this world these days. However, I will point out that there is an overwhelming wealth of data about this question in Gwinnett County specifically, and that data that we have shows that voters are actually overwhelmingly against the measure that is proposed in this bill. I point again to the ballot question on the 2020 Republican primary ballot and the survey that surveyed thousands and thousands of Gwinnett County school families regarding the Board of Education and its constitution. Overwhelmingly, from what we've heard of Gwinnett voters up until now, they do not want legislation like this being passed.
So what is your opinion on why this bill is here, why we're debating it then, given the data that you've just mentioned and the fact that we know that such a notion was withdrawn from the idea of going forward across the state?
Right. I don't presume to know or see inside the hearts of man or woman. However, I do think that this does invite the question, if this is not a question we're willing to push forth for the entire state, that if a proposal to improve the education and take the partisanship out of school boards for Gwinnett is such a good move that would champion the education of our kids, why it's not good enough for every school in this state. And it also invites the question of why Gwinnett is being targeted with this type of legislation. Those are just the questions I wonder. I'll leave it to each individual to answer for themselves. But I don't understand, to your point, why if it's good for us in a county that is not represented by everyone here, why it's not good for everyone. Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
I do.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
I do.
Senator, let me direct your attention to an item that one of our colleagues in here mentioned that was overly racist. Isn't it true that Gwinnett County is predominantly minority today?
I believe as of the last census data, that is correct.
And Senator, isn't it also true that prior to Gwinnett County becoming minority, that the only elected officials in Gwinnett County were white Republicans?
The senator knows of what he speaks. I believe there has been tremendous change in Gwinnett County over the past decade.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, I do.
Senator, isn't it also true that now there are African Americans, Democratic candidates that have been elected to these seats in Gwinnett County?
The senator knows of what he speaks. There has been tremendous change also on the school board and its constitution in the past decade.
So isn't his statement on this minority report simply stating a fact?
What I think we should point to with respect to this minority report is, again, what I've cited in my statement, which is with respect to voter turnout and representation, changing the Board of Elections to May, we have demonstrated historically vastly decreases voter turnout and it vastly decreases voters of color coming out to vote for this extremely important issue, which I agree with the senator from the 45th, is really vitally important to our kids in our school. So I would say that if a measure selectively decreases turnout from families of color, from voters of color that represent the majority of the county, then yes, it has a selective effect with respect to race.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes the minority whip to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Everyone here has eloquently stated the reasons for actually be opposed to this particular bill, and they've talked about the fact that the local issues, and they talked about the fact that their local residents have interjected themselves in this, and that becomes very important because lately in our body, in this General Assembly and in the Senate, everything now is local until it's not. And that's a shame that we're actually coming to this particular point. In a few short years since I've been here, we've been from a body that is always locals matter. Local determined how we were going to act. But all of a sudden now that has changed. What's bringing about that change, of course, is that Georgia is changing. And we need to make a decision how we're going to interact with each other, not only in this particular body, but how we're going to interact with each other as a general society. As Georgia changes and the persons that lead Georgia changes, we have to basically trust in their leadership the same way that others have trusted in others' leadership. And so we've done this now, getting involved in local politics, now with redistricting. Remember the easement fight we had in Augusta? And it's just wrong. And I can give you an example. There was actually a local bill that was once put up by a Democratic county that was changing magistrate court from partisan to nonpartisan. We're partisan in Augusta. And I asked the person, it was a Democrat who did it. I asked them, what are you doing? Why would you do this? And they explained, and I said, it's your county, it's your business, do it. I completely agree with partisan elections for all elections, but that was their county. That's what they wanted to do. I think even for judgeship races, it ought to be partisan. The fact of the matter is we're not automatons, we're not robots. We all have beliefs and opinions about how government should work. And even if it doesn't neatly fit into a Republican or Democratic box, I guarantee you it fits within there somewhere. And if a person doesn't want to run from a partisan race, they can also run as an independent. The point is we don't even need to be having this conversation. This is a conversation for the people in Gwinnett to be having. This is their conversation. This we should defer to them. The same way I deferred to that person when they wanted to change what we do in Augusta, which is have partisan elections. We need to make sure that we continue to hear the values, not only of this General Assembly, but of our state, that local truly does matter. And if we do that, I think we'll find ourselves in a much better place than where I believe that we're actually heading, not only in this body, but unfortunately within this state. And with that, I yield the well. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 5th for a point of personal privilege, or to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's indeed a personal privilege anyway. The privilege I feel, with due respect to my colleagues from Senate District 45th, I'm not just a legislator in Gwinnett, I'm also a parent. My son goes to Gwinnett Public School. I was in a public school day before yesterday. The day I'm not here, I drive my child to the school pretty much 5 days a week. So I know a little bit about what's going on in Gwinnett school system because my son goes to Gwinnett County School. Nobody asks me. I think I represent same amount of population my dear colleagues represent in Gwinnett County. And I hear that a lot of people calling my colleagues about the problem in school districts. Unfortunately, I don't think I hear much of it. And you know what? Gwinnett, maybe 61 or 32, whatever you want to say, but we have one of the best school systems, not only in Gwinnett, not only in Georgia, but in the country. And I believe it. Not because I'm just biased, because I live in Gwinnett. One of the reasons Gwinnett school system is good, because people like me, people look like me, and that's the fact. We value education more than a lot of folks in this country. You might not believe that, but that's true. I personally believe in education. That's why when I came to this country, I went to school, I had to drop out from the freshman to undergraduate degree. It took me 14 years to finish my undergraduate degree. So I know what education means. I know what education means to my children. I'm proud to say that I'm a Georgia Bulldog. I graduated from University of Georgia. My daughter goes to Georgia Tech. So I know a little bit about education too. So Gwinnett is good. Whenever I go outside the state, I do travel a lot. Some of you may know and may not know. I don't only travel around the state, I travel around the countries, all around the world. Even during the pandemic, I've been to a few different countries. Everybody knows Gwinnett. Probably didn't knew as much as before 2020 election. People know about Atlanta, about Georgia because of 1996 Olympics, because of 2020 election and what's going on. Because of upcoming election, I get a lot of calls from all around the country. People ask me, what's going on in Gwinnett? And I always tell, Gwinnett is good, Gwinnett is great. Because people still don't believe that people like me can get elected in Gwinnett. They get surprised. I said, no, Gwinnett is not the same Gwinnett, or Georgia is not the same Georgia that you knew 30 years or 40 years ago. Georgia has changed. Georgia has changed for the better. That's why people elected me. It's not that people look like me, voted for me. I have people white, black, Hispanic, from all walks of life. People from all different worlds. You know, I have people from 100 different countries, speak 100 different languages. They voted for me. You know, people look like me if they only voted for me. If all of them voted for me, still I wouldn't get elected. So Gwinnett knows me, I knows Gwinnett too. Because I spent, you know, when I first moved to Gwinnett, it's more than 30 years ago. So please, I ask you, let Gwinnett people a chance. Let put in a vote, whether, you know, in a referendum, see if they want. If Gwinnett people wants nonpartisan school board, I don't have a problem, you know. School board member don't teach. School board member don't go to school and teach. We have a great teachers in Gwinnett County. We have a great administrator. We have a great staff. We have a lot of good folks in Gwinnett. They take care of the children. So this is kind of slap in the face to Gwinnett residents that they don't have the opportunity just because they voted us. We're going to make a decision for them. Let's people speak up. Let's have a chance. Let's give our folks a chance to decide what they want to do with the school board. And that's all I have to say. Please vote no. I know a lot of you have come from outside Metro Atlanta. I don't go ask you all what's going on in your county. I'm kind of a little offended that, you know, you all signed up, some of you all signed up on this bill, do not even live in Gwinnett County. I don't know how, when is the last time you even came to Gwinnett County, you know? It's like sad, you know. I had a couple of bills, you know. I had one bill, Norcross bill. We wanted a referendum a couple of years ago. And as a local delegation, we asked to put that, you know, for referendum, let people decide. And you all didn't even give me a chance. Didn't give a chance to my folks in Norcross when they wanted to annex a little bit of area. All of our delegation, we are for it. And one single senator opposed it, and we couldn't even vote. Now we come back 2 years from now on, it's the same thing. Just one senator wants to do something, and 6 of us, we don't have a voice, just because we're in a minority party? I don't know. So, you know, a lot of stuff going on in Washington, D.C., and we don't want to bring Washington, D.C. to Georgia. We are better than that. When I go outside, I tell everybody, because we pass most of the bill in bipartisan way. Let's keep it that way. I don't want to go tell folks outside when I go, you know, we're just like Washington, D.C. No. Please keep Georgia as it is and have some respect, have some decency. And that's all I have to say. I yield the well. Thank you very much.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 40th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I have the pleasure twice a morning now to provide my 22-year-old son a ride to school because he's now going to Georgia State University. And it's been great to just have that time in the car to be able to chat with each other about everyday things. So today I was telling him a little bit about what I was expecting to happen here in the Senate chamber. So I told him about this bill. I explained to him what it does, that it changes the school board elections in Gwinnett County from partisan elections to nonpartisan elections. Then I gave him a little bit of the history of Gwinnett County, and that the school board has been primarily Republican for decades, and that there's been a recent change in that 3 of the members, the majority of the school board, has now become Democratic, and that it just so happens that those Democrats who are serving on the school board now are black. So he understood the impact of making this change right now, at this particular time. Then I went on and I told him about the process, that there's a process to be followed to allow the local senators to have their say on local legislation, and that 6 senators disagreed with this legislation, and there was only 1 senator who agreed to it and who was pushing it, and that they had changed the rules to make it so that this bill could be passed by the majority of Republican senators who don't even live in the county. To which he and I agreed, this is exactly the reason why people don't like politicians. Now, I was raised in a Republican household. My mom was a Republican. She was a typical Midwestern, my parents were typical Midwestern Republicans. They were fiscal conservatives, and they believed strongly in local control. Now, I have heard a senator here in this chamber said that we Republicans were for local control, except for when we're not. That's a quote. This is why my mom's not a Republican anymore. Because we talk about partisan as if it's something bad. But when we have a D after our name, or an R after our name, it represents a set of values. And my mom agreed with a certain set of values that were associated with the Republican Party. She doesn't see those values anymore. So that's why she doesn't consider herself a Republican. She said the Republican Party left her. She doesn't consider herself a Democrat either. She's lost. My mom would not support this measure because it doesn't embrace the value of local control. In fact, it's exactly the opposite of that. My mom would support this amendment that says let the people, the local people, the people of Gwinnett County, make their own decision about whether their school board is partisan or nonpartisan. So I encourage you to vote against this bill this morning and for this amendment to let the people of Gwinnett County decide. Thank you. I yield the well.
Would the senator from the 48 like to additionally speak to the minority report? She waves. Would the senator from the 45th like to close debate? He waves. For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
Point of order, Mr. President.
State your point of order.
I need a ruling on whether amendment number 2 is in order.
Okay, the chair is prepared to rule from the point of order that amendment number 2 was out of order, and it is the chair's opinion that it is out of order. This is a local piece of legislation, and it is a specific rule, 3-2.1c, regardless of which route the local bill takes, this amendment comes back through and amends the OCGA. Therefore, it becomes a general bill, which is an out-of-order process for this chamber. So amendment number 2 is out of order. All right, we're going to first take up amendment. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
Point of order?
State your point of order.
Just a clarification on what we just talked about. Can you explain again that this piece of legislation is a local bill, and the reason that amendment number 2 was not allowed was because it is a general amendment on a local bill?
So I'll read straight from the code section. Under Senate Rule 3-2.1c, a local bill may be assigned through a general procedure, which this underlying measure has. This does not change that the bill is a local bill in nature, which we all agree upon. Amendment number 2 seeks to change the underlying bill from a local bill to a general bill, and that would amend state law and is therefore ruled out of order.
Just one more point of clarification. Is it not true that local bills need to pass through the local delegation process?
That's not correct.
That is not correct?
That's
It's
not the Senate rules. That's the local
delegation.
delegation rules.
Understood.
We're now going to take up amendment number 1. Is there objection to amendment number 1? There is objection. All those in favor of amendment number 1, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 41st rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that a yes vote is a vote to let the people vote on their own bill for their own county?
That's for each and every member to determine on their own. On the amendment, the yeas are 22, the nays are 30, and the amendment has failed. We'll now take up Senate Bill 369. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question's on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 32, the nays are 21. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Thursday, 3 February 2022.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read your announcements?
The Retirement Committee will meet in room 310 of the CLOB at 2 p.m. today. The Finance Committee will meet in room 450 at 3 p.m. today, and all other committee meetings have been canceled for today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Perry, Georgia, for an announcement. is too early to run. You can't run yet. Senator from the 28th will tell you all about that.
So on behalf of the University of Georgia College of Agriculture and Environmental Science, I want to invite you all to a legislative reception this evening from 4:30 to 6 in the Blue Room at the Freight Depot. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 35th from her desk for an announcement.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Tomorrow, in room 307 of the CLOB, we will celebrate Rosa Parks Day at the Capitol. And please come have lunch with us in room 307. We'd love to have you, and we're celebrating, what's his name, Levert? What's the man's first name? The singer is going to be there. Gerald Levert. Eddie, okay. Okay. Eddie Levert is going to be there to greet all of you as well. And he's been working with the Rosa Parks family, and they are going to bring a museum here in Georgia. So please come and join us tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for an announcement. You sure? Yeah. You love the spotlight. It's open for you. Come tell us something. Okay. Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th for an announcement.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to invite everyone tonight at 5 o'clock to the depot for the Lowndes County Bird Supper. We're actually excited and able to have that again. Folks back home have been hunting birds for a long time to get this thing put together, so we look forward to seeing everybody.
For what purpose does the senator from the 9th rise?
Mr. President, I ask that we reconsider Senate Bill 369.
Just as a point of understanding, you're serving notice that you would like to reconsider Senate Bill 369, and the appropriate time would be before the journal is read tomorrow to take up that motion.
Correct.
Great, thank you. So acknowledged. All right, the majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no? The ayes consistently have it. Senate stands adjourned.